welcome to Expertise is Overrated, the podcast that takes the time to answer the questions you didn't know you didn't want the answers to. I'm Sean.
And I'm Vib, and neither of us has any clue what we're talking about. Now, before we get to this episode, let's award the much vaunted Expertise is Overrated Tinfoil Award.
I'm so happy about this.
I'm so upset about this.
This is so good. So I finally get to pass over the tinfoil hat, and Vib has to wear it for his provably incorrect statement that Dracul is a Black Court elder.
It's such nonsense, because he clearly is.
False.
He clearly is the Black Court elder in the Dresden Files.
That's like saying that the Emperor in 40k is a Primarch. That's actually what you're doing.
Okay, well, we have a new episode idea there, then, don't we?
I've just come up with that analogy, but that's what you're doing.
He's one of the two unknowns. That's why they're unknown. But no, I'm very upset about this. Dracul is quite clearly Black Court. I mean, he can pretend all he wants. He's quite clearly a Black Court elder. And so I will, at some point, when we've done a few more episodes, I think I will challenge you to a tinfoil off, to see if one of us can revoke tinfoil that we're given.
We both have to remake the cases that got us the tinfoil of our choice. Okay. I have a lot to choose from. This is great.
Or we try to combine all the tinfoil into one big tinfoil hat.
Oh, that would be good.
Fulgrim is a painting created by Dracul. There we go.
Right.
No, but in today's episode, as we promised, we will be talking Star Wars for the first time ever on our show.
I know, it's very exciting. I'm really looking forward to this. I think the best way to do this is we go through our lists one at a time.
I 100% agree.
Cool. So I'll start us off. What have you got in your bottom number 11 position?
You see, this is where I already get to call you an idiot. We're not even 5 minutes in. And you said this last time that we would be talking about 11 films, but there's actually 12.
I'm sorry, what?
You idiot. Yeah. And incidentally, the 12th one that I'm sure is the one you've forgotten is my number 12, because it's terrible. And it is the Clone Wars movie.
Oh my god, is that? I did actually... The animated
one, yeah. The one that kickstarts the animated Clone Wars series, which, if you haven't watched it, is excellent. As is the other animated series, Rebels.
Is it even possible to find that film?
You know what? It's surprisingly difficult, which I think goes to show just how terrible it is. I do believe I rented it on Amazon at one point. Was it Amazon? It might actually now be on Disney Plus. I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, it must be. Everything.
Please give us the ad revenue money for mentioning you, Disney.
I'm going to need to go and watch this now.
Right. I highly recommend you do. It is hilarious. So that is my number 12.
Okay, I don't have a number 12, but I'm just going to assume that you're right.
If that one doesn't end up in number 12 for you, then I honestly don't know what we're doing with our time.
Fair enough.
But go and watch it.
Okay, I shall. All right, what's your number 11 then?
My number 11 of the real Star Wars franchise films, I have Attack of the Clones.
Okay, understandable.
What about you?
I have Rise of Skywalker.
Okay, interesting, because at number 10 I have Rise of Skywalker.
At number 10 I have Attack of the Clones.
Oh, wow, okay, well, we're not far off so far with our bottom rankings there. What have you got at number 9?
I suspect we may part ways quickly. I have Phantom Menace at number 9.
Okay. I mean, I've got The Last Jedi because it is worse than The Phantom Menace, but okay.
I'm going to go and vomit for a second. Hold on.
Yeah, okay. I'll just let you know that Phantom Menace is my number 8. So
okay,
you weren't far off.
Okay, Force Awakens is my number
8. Force Awakens is my number 7.
We're concerningly close.
I know. It's worrying.
We need to find something to talk. Well, we've got something to talk about at least. My number 7 is Solo.
Interesting. What about your number 6?
Rogue One.
Oh, interesting. You got both Star Wars stories side by side, bang in the middle.
I do.
Interesting.
Hedged my bets there. What's your number 6?
Mine is the Revenge of the Sith.
The Revenging of the Sithing.
The Revenging of the Sithing, exactly. Very, very angry Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. What's your number 5?
Here we get into the classics. Return of the Jedi.
Okay, I have exactly the same. Jedi is 5.
Be less predictable, would you?
That's
So let me
my
guess what
lie.
you've got. So you've got A New Hope at number 4, like I do.
No, I have Revenge of the Sith at number 4.
Oh, okay. Bit of
And
divergence.
I think there must be some nostalgia going on here because I know everyone disagrees with me
Well,
about how high I've put that.
what's already concerning me right now is that we're into the top 3 and you have not yet mentioned The Last Jedi.
You can keep waiting.
Oh no, he's not gone and done it, has he? Who have you got at
What was your number 4?
New Hope?
Oh, sorry, you did say that.
Yeah.
You
What
did
have you
say
got at
that.
number 3?
New Hope.
New Hope. Okay. I've got The Empire Strikes Back. Controversial,
At number
potentially.
3. That's very controversial. Wait, you've done all of the wow.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've done.
Wow. Okay, I've got Empire at 2.
Oh, you are actually joking, aren't you? Well, I know what the next hour is going to be spent on. I've got Solo at 2.
Solo at 2. Wow.
And then, of course, Rogue One in number 1. I mean, it's in the title.
I'm just gonna let the silence build for a moment.
I think we can just cut it there. I don't think we need to know your number 1 because it's
My number
just
1
garbage.
My number 1 is The Last Jedi.
See, part of me was actually hoping you were going to say the Clone Wars movie.
I just don't count Last Jedi. No, so yeah, I feel like when we come round to talk about this, and I suspect that I'm not going to have very long to prepare my arguments, I'm going to need to explain myself a little bit.
You really will. You really will. And I thought I was being the one controversial by putting, the Star Wars stories in number 1 and 2. Although I've got what I consider a good reason for that.
I'm curious. My reason for having them at 6 and 7 is probably not dissimilar for your reason for having them at 1 and 2. I just reacted to it differently, is my guess.
Yeah,
so I guess I don't know what your reason is. So
well, I guess the best way of putting it for me is that they're at number 1 and 2 because they are not the Skywalker saga, which instantly makes them. See, I don't want to say better because that sounds wrong. Because for the record, I love everything to do with Star Wars.
Yeah, let's get our excuses in early. We're both massive Star Wars fans.
We are both massive Star Wars fans. And for me, it's entirely about the universe that they have made.
Yeah.
And I think Rogue One and Solo fit so nicely into that universe, and they're so beautifully made in that universe without being the run-of-the-mill Skywalker saga films. That is why they're up there for me.
That's absolutely fair. I can see what you're saying. My issue, I think, particularly with Solo, less so with Rogue One, but it's also there, is that I think the best stories that are told in the Star Wars universe are not even tangentially related to the Skywalker saga, and Rogue One and Solo both are. I think the best Star Wars story is Knights of the Old Republic. It's the best story.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that because the video games are amazing, and it's just because
even the Jedi Knight series, which is sort of sequels, it's no longer canon, but sequels to the Skywalkers. It's not about the Skywalkers anymore.
Yeah, and also
Rogue One and Solo too much are.
But saying that, there was what were they called? Force Unleashed? Is that what they're called?
They were good.
Yeah, but they're because they're all about Vader, right? So they're still related to the Skywalker saga.
Vader's a character.
Yeah, but
you only get to play as Vader when the game wants you to feel like you're a god.
Sure, but you still get to play as him. Whereas you don't,
and it's fun.
It is fun, but in Solo, for example, you don't. It's not like Vader being a thing is a major driver of the plot.
No,
we just think he is because he's relevant later on because it's Han Solo.
The only reason we care about Solo is that it's Han Solo. If Solo had been well, there's two things. If Solo had not been called Solo and had been about someone else whose name you never hear until at the very end they say Solo
Would still have
or
been a great film.
Han, I think it would have been better. But it was so obviously, here's the origin story for a character who never needed an origin story. And also Han Solo being
Sure.
the initial funding behind the Republic, just behind the rebellion, really irritated me because I didn't need that. That could have been like
No.
She could have that little girl could have just been your everyday freedom fighter, and I would have bought it. I didn't need her to become the rebellion.
No, fair, absolutely. And I think a film, because that is just the ultimate, like, space pirates blockbuster film.
It's Ocean's 11 in space. Thank you very much. I will have two.
And well, absolutely, it would have been amazing, regardless of the characters. I think, I in this particular case, I think it's enriched because it's Han Solo, and we see cameos of some other important characters.
Sure.
In the bigger series, which that just amps the nostalgia factor, because.
No, I get that, but that nostalgia factor was my biggest complaint with Force Awakens, which we've both put fairly low. Right, because Force Awakens was nothing but nostalgia porn.
What is it? 7 and 8, respectively. We've put it down.
You have it at 8. I have it at 8. You have it at 7. Yeah. And
which
you incorrectly have Last Jedi at 9. What I think is
what's interesting is actually that it beats a bunch of the prequels, and it definitely beats The Last Jedi. It beats all the prequels.
Force Awakens, but that's because it's just A New Hope. It's
because
just
that's
the
exactly
same
it.
Film.
It's the same film. It's pretty much got all the same characters in it.
It's got similar dialogue, for Pete's sake.
It's got similar dialogue. It's completely
beat
the same
for
plot.
beat the same film, but like, and part of the problem is that I grew up just after Star Wars was really a thing, and before I watched the prequels as a mid-teens, I think. So I don't have the
same-ish. Yeah,
I think I've got more nostalgia for the original trilogy than I do the prequels, which is why when I watched a Star Wars film in cinema as an adult, when I was like, what was I been, 22, 20? No, older than that, 24. Like,
it Force Awakens.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how old I was in Sweden, so I was about 24, 25. Like, it really hit home to me. It was just like I was overwhelmed with how happy that made me.
No, and this
tragic.
This is something I actually want to mention, particularly because I know there will be a few people listening who I went to the cinema with to go and see the last 3 films, and without exception, I walked out of every single one of those films feeling really content, really happy.
Yeah.
Having watched what I considered a fantastic film. And it's only when you start analysing these sort of things.
Even Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker, I walked out, I thought, that's the best film I've ever seen. Walked out of Last Jedi, I thought, that's the best film I've ever seen. Walked out of Force Awakens, thought, that's the best film I've ever seen. And then, half an hour later you think, well, was it actually the best film I've ever seen? Probably not.
What actually happened?
But it's Star Wars, and it's Star Wars in a cinema.
I know.
Which is actually interesting, because I remember my dad, who was a massive Star Wars fan, and it's obviously talking the original 3 films. He loved them, and he was so excited to go to the cinema in 1999, I want to say, for...
Sounds right.
Phantom Menace, exactly.
Yeah.
And I've never seen my dad being excited to go to the cinema, and he came back and said, that was unbelievably disappointing.
Oh, no.
So... I'm quite glad that I never had that. I know, it's awful, isn't it? So I'm really glad that I didn't experience that.
I saw Phantom Menace in the cinema, and I liked it. But I was a child. So I thought Jar Jar Binks was good.
But that's exactly the problem with the prequels.
They weren't marketed to our
films.
parents. They were marketed to the kids of our parents. They were marketed to us.
Yeah. And what they tried was that classic Disney thing, and that I think only Disney and Pixar do so well, where they make a film that is ostensibly for kids, but make it an incredibly fun watch for adults as well. And
Yeah.
they tried it with the prequels and failed horribly because their idea of fun for adults was, let's talk politics for 5 hours. Which, I mean, come on, George.
I know. I pick DreamWorks do it as well, don't they? Shrek.
Oh, yes, of course, Shrek, yeah. Oh, well, I haven't actually seen Shrek as an adult, so I couldn't possibly comment.
I think there's plenty in it for adults. Okay. You're absolutely right, though. So I guess that's why we've both got Clones so low. Right, Attack of the Clones. It's because it couldn't decide if it was a child-friendly action film with laser swords, which is what I thought it was when I was a kid, and my God, did I like it.
Absolutely.
Or an in-depth political drama, including some sort of pseudo-political science halfway through, done in a field. Remember that?
I do remember it. Aggressive negotiations, anyone? You can't even say it. That's how angry you still are about that scene.
Sounds a lot like a dictatorship. Well, if it works. Oh my God. Hit us over the head.
Hashtag political science students.
I know. Yeah, I don't know. I have a lot. There's a lot wrong with Clones. There is a lot wrong with it, but I still watch it. If I'm doing a rewatch of Star Wars, I watch Clones. I don't skip it.
See, no, it's interesting because if you take them at face value, well, let me rephrase that. If you take them for what I consider the face value of those films, they are great because it is just specifically Attack of the Clones because it culminates in this grand ending where there's lots and lots of laser swords, and it's fucking excellent.
And there is actually, I can't believe I'm about to utter this phrase, there is actually a coherent plot. It's just not a very interesting one.
Well, it's also not that coherent, is it?
Some
random guy rocks up on Camino, clearly not. He's not got a clue what's going on, and those people who've been paid billions of credits are like, "Oh yeah, he must be the guy." Sure, he doesn't know anything about clones, but he's here to pick up the clones.
That's why I'm here. Can we just take a moment? We do actually need to go back to our lists, but can we just take a moment to appreciate that Ewan McGregor gave way too much of the prime of his career to the Star Wars prequels?
Something tells me he doesn't regret that decision.
No, he made him. Have you seen him on the Graham Norton show? This is just us chatting
with his sword, yes.
With his because he learned it all himself.
Yeah, and he's really good at it.
He's really really good.
He's since been in some serious films like The Island. Moving swiftly on.
Film worse than Attack of the Clones. No, the problem with Clones is it doesn't know what type of story it's trying to tell, and if it was trying to tell either properly, it would be better than it is.
And I would also say that the problem with Clones is that it specifically wasn't Empire. Because for so many years, everyone loved Empire. And Empire I can see why, because it's a fantastic film.
Empire appears on lists of the best films of all time, not just sci-fi.
Quite. It's a true testament to how good it is, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a fantastic standalone film, and it fantastically ties New Hope and
is it though?
Jedi.
I'm about to say something unpopular.
Okay.
It's unusual for Expertise is Overrated, I know.
Oh, 100%. Especially coming from you.
I don't think... I nearly put New Hope above Empire. I was so close to doing it, and eventually I bowed to the weight of critical pressure, essentially.
Peer review, nice. Well, talk us through that one.
So, Empire is phenomenal. Empire is the best of the original trilogy, but the only reason Empire works is because we already care about all the characters. The emotional impact of Han being frozen in carbonite doesn't work if you haven't seen Han Solo nearly just be a 2-bit scoundrel character before he reappears at the end of New Hope to actually save the day. Luke's Death Star run doesn't work without Han Solo. I Am Your Father doesn't work if you haven't been with Luke in New Hope when he's struggling with this fact that he's an orphan, and how excited he is when Ben Kenobi tells him that he knew his father. you don't get the emotional impact of Ben appearing in Hoth when Luke's delirious, saying, "Go to Dagobah and find Yoda." If you don't know Ben and don't know what he meant to Luke, I don't think you could. I don't think Empire is a standalone film, and I think it's made
No.
good because of New Hope.
No, I do agree. It's very abstract to talk about Empire as a standalone film, but in terms of its direction and cinematography and everything, it's phenomenal in that way.
I see what you mean when you say standalone. In that sense, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, as a story, yeah, of course, it a lot of it will frankly not make any sense. But it's interesting because I nearly agreed with you as well. I considered putting New Hope above Empire because it's the thing that starts it all, isn't it?
It does.
It's the first Star Wars film. It is excellent.
You don't get Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy without those Star Wars films.
There you go.
That's the first. That feels like a small hot take.
that does feel like a small hot take. I do kind of want you to elaborate on that.
So, Star Wars proved that if you took an IP and treated it with love and treated it with care, you could get a devoted following who would love your movies. And it proved that what people care about is that love and care. And that's how you get Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. Because that could have been made by someone who didn't love and didn't care about the IP. And they would have been awful.
Yeah, quite. And it's the problem that The Hobbit ran into because Jackson wasn't given enough time. Yeah. So no, I agree with you. And the interesting thing about New Hope is, of course, that it was actually directed by George Lucas, which is still
it's the only one that was.
Of the originals, yeah.
Yes.
But I think I'm going to say it. I think it's also what lets New Hope down and why it ultimately ended up behind Empire. Because I rewatched it not too long ago, and though it is excellent, there is a good 20 minutes of exactly the same shot on repeat of Luke flying through that. I don't know what you would call it.
Target.
Exactly. Stay on target. It's like, how long has he been flying there? Especially because his two wingmen get shot within the first minute, and then for some reason Luke is there on his own being chased by 3 TIE fighters, one of whom is Darth Vader, for 20 minutes without getting shot.
Who was the greatest starfighter in the galaxy? Star pilot in the galaxy, according to Ben Kenobi.
Absolutely. And it really hit me on that rewatch for the first time ever. It's like, this scene goes on for way too long.
Yeah.
But it is still absolutely exceptional as a film.
It is. So that's I think we need to talk about Return of the Jedi because we've both ranked it quite low. You've at least got it as
Return of the Jedi is 5 for both of us.
We've both got it as 5 for both of us.
That's not
I've
low.
got Revenge of the Sith above it, which I think probably means I have to turn in my nerd card.
You have to turn in so many things. Although I want to say I kind of get it, but still explain it to me. Because I don't get it.
The reason that Revenge of the Sith is so high is all of the components of a good film are there. And then they shot a load of other scenes as well.
That's exactly the problem with Jedi, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
you just hate Ewoks? Be honest now.
A part of it is I hate Ewoks, but I don't know. Maybe my issue with Jedi is sort of the issue that a lot of people have with the sequels, which is they just keep building Death Stars. And haven't we done that? Aren't we done with Death Stars?
But this time the Death Star is a trap.
I'm not going to do it, but yes, this time the Death Star is a trap. I can't do a Mon Calamari. No, I don't know. I think that the fall of Anakin Skywalker is good, and I think it's actually done not as badly as people think it is. It's just his fall is all there, and then whoever it was that was directing it was worried that we hadn't realised by the time he threw Mace Windu out a window that he'd fallen, so he had to go and kill a bunch of younglings. Like, we hadn't been hit over the head enough with it.
It's interesting that you use the term fallen, because that very much presupposes that you think the Jedi are the good guys in all of this. And
I think you fall to the dark side.
Only in this utterly nonsensical
Only a Sith
state of
deals in
being.
absolutes.
Exactly. Only a Sith deals in absolutes. It's absolutely fantastic. Because it's nonsense, and the Jedi, in quotation marks, who worked this out were the likes of Qui-Gon Jinn. I mean, he really knew.
But so this is interesting, because in George Lucas's original mapping out of Star Wars, there was no such thing as the light side of the Force. There was the Force, and then there was the perversion of the Force that is the dark side. So you do actually fall to the dark side. No, that's not the case by the time the prequels come around, right? The Force has evolved.
No, and that equally is a problematic interpretation, right? Because if the Force is everything, well, quite literally everything, I suppose, perversion of it is such an abstract concept, because
no, you're right.
Because it has to be inherently perverted for it to be able to, you know.
Maybe it's better to say fell to the Sith rather than fell to the
fell
dark
to the
side.
Sith. Yeah, but this is an important distinction, I think. As in, there's no point talking light and dark side, but there is a point in talking Jedi and Sith.
Well, I think there is a point in talking light and dark side, because
you can't have one without the other.
No, you can't. But I also think that what becomes dangerous is when one comes to rule you, no matter which one it is, except that when only the light side comes to rule you, it's an internal self-destructive issue. Whereas when the dark side comes to rule you, it is an external destructive issue. Because the dark side is
but it's
No, go ahead.
It's only one that can really manifest as a result of people letting the light side reign supreme, for lack of a better phrase.
No, sure.
I mean, this is getting very philosophical in terms of what the Force is. But I think the highlight of what I'm trying to say here is that Grey Jedi, absolutely on the right tracks.
Qui-Gon was right.
Qui-Gon was right. I mean, that's a life lesson for all of us.
Also, I suspect Dooku, I think, is a Sith Qui-Gon. Maybe, but I haven't watched enough of Clone Wars.
I don't think so, because I think Dooku's gone too far.
You reckon?
I think Dooku's gone too far, and this is the power of the dark side, right? It's a temptress.
Yes,
so
it is.
Once he threw his fate in with. But
you do see in the sequels Kylo Ren talking about the temptation of the light side. So I think that what's actually tempts you is balance. And the problem
exactly, but no one seems to fucking realize this until well, Qui-Gon realizes it early on, and no one else seems to fucking realize it until arguably Luke at the end.
Yes,
and it's so Jedi, really basically. It's so frustrating, isn't it? Yeah, because they always talk about shy away from the dark side, not noticing the light side is
seductive as well.
Yeah, just balance. Everything has to be balanced.
It's the best way to play KOTOR.
Well, yeah, quite.
Which is how I live my life.
But your point is well made. It's watching Anakin go through that is,
because the thing is, you're with him, right? Yeah. You're with him every step of the way. Every step that Anakin takes makes sense. And the problem is, well, except up until the point that he starts killing younglings. But like when he's in Palpatine's office, right, and Mace Windu's about to strike down the Chancellor, Anakin has two things going. Well, he's probably got a million things going through his head, but chief among them is, we serve the Republic and the Senate. We're not judge, jury, and executioner. So what the fuck gives Windu the power to decide what's right and wrong? Is it just that he's the strongest guy with a big stick? Because that's not the Jedi way.
Or is it? When push
or
comes
is
to shove.
it? But also, Anakin says it. I need him because Palpatine has told Anakin that he's the only one who can save Padme, and who wouldn't do anything to save the one that they love?
I know, it's very Robert Baratheon, isn't it? Got him. No, it's
Robert
you're quite
Baratheon
right.
doesn't even know what love is.
You're quite right. I want to know what love is. No, no, you're absolutely right.
Glad you didn't, because if you didn't, I would have had to.
No, Anakin's fall is great, but it's also, I think, a big reason why it scored lower for me than Jedi.
Okay.
Because it's Anakin. And I confess,
Yeah.
I'm now googling the actor's name.
Hayden
Hayden
Christensen.
Christensen, of course. He's the one that makes it problematic for me because he overacts it slightly, in my opinion. And you see so much of his face in so much agony and grief that it starts to feel a little bit insincere.
Hammed.
Yeah, and immersion and all that. Because I confess that I when I tried to watch the films again, I did have to stop halfway through Sith, mainly for that reason.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about that because
No, it's
sort of is what it is.
It's fair, and we're looking at different things. If you ask me to grade them on acting, then yes, Sith has to fall down. But I'm trying really hard to focus on like narrative and theme.
No, and I absolutely agree with you, and that's absolutely the right way of going about it.
But
that
also,
just stuck
it's
with
really
me. 'Cause
hard to see past Hayden Christensen's anguished face. I'll give you that. I will,
especially because he stood across from Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor, so
and
much,
Natalie
and he
Portman.
plays it perfectly, in my opinion.
And
He's
Natalie
got just
Portman,
the
who
right
gives
amount.
a great performance.
I know.
But no, yeah. You get the sense at the end on Mustafar, you get the sense that Obi-Wan is in pain, and it's in small things. You don't, even though Anakin is like screaming, you don't get the sense he's in pain. You get the sense that he's been told that he should be screaming, and that is a problem. I grant you.
But that said, it's true that people look at that and go, "Yeah, it's all about how Anakin falls." But equally, as you say, it's also about how Obi-Wan. I mean, not falls. Well, he does and he doesn't, right? Because I think it's at that moment where he kind of rejects the Jedi ideals, and he equally becomes a bit grey and thinks, "Well,
how
I've stuck
useful,
to this."
I mean, I haven't watched Rebels. It's on my very long list of things I need to watch. But how useful is Obi-Wan to the rebellion?
It's hard to answer that question. I mean, he's not.
Put it this way:
Spoiler alert! He's not a major character in Rebels. That's all. By any means.
That's what I thought. And think about it: he's probably the only surviving military-minded person who could join the rebellion. And
yeah, but
there may well be characters in Rebels who prove me wrong. But based on what we see in the original trilogy, he's a general.
Yeah, but he also plays the single most important role in the rebellion by keeping Luke Skywalker alive.
But is he actually doing it? Well, maybe he is. I don't know.
It's not said in so many words, perhaps. Well, it is. There's a few episodes on
I know
Tatooine that you should watch. So
I know of one at least. But my case there would be surely that character. Well, I don't know why I'm being cagey. Spoilers for Rebels. Skip ahead a few seconds. But surely Maul is only there because Obi-Wan is there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's interesting because their interaction. It's quite telling because I think Maul realizes that Obi-Wan is there for a very specific and important reason.
Sure.
Which is ultimately what leads to their altercation.
Yeah.
But we shan't talk about that until a future episode. You're right. Like he's obviously a general, but he's put all of that aside because I think he realized, a bit like Yoda, although that arc doesn't really conclude until The Last Jedi, I suppose. That the way they went about it, the Jedi Council, the light side, etc., was just flawed.
Yes, I think that makes sense. So what have we got left to talk about? There's two films that are standing out to me on my list, and they're numbers 1 and 11.
Yeah.
And they cause they don't cause each other.
They exactly cause each other.
They're your 9 and 10. So The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Right. I'll let you
I'll let you
go first.
Can I preface that by saying I could see arguments for why Last Jedi is at number 1, although most of them are meme arguments and it's the sort of thing reserved for Reddit.
Okay.
But I feel because of The Last Jedi, you have to put Rise of Skywalker next in line because that film is what it is purely because of Last Jedi.
No.
So if you want to put Last Jedi at number 1, you have to accept the fact that Rise of Skywalker needs to be number 2.
I have to do nothing of the
it's
sort.
shit because of Last Jedi.
No.
Yes.
I disagree. Rise of Skywalker
you're an idiot, in case I haven't said it yet.
Shut up and let me talk. Rise of Skywalker is shit because Rise of Skywalker is shit because of
Rise of
Jedi,
Walker,
not in the way that you mean. Rise of Skywalker is crap because it took everything that happened in Last Jedi and everything we were told in Last Jedi and went, nah, not doing that.
Okay, elaborate on that. Like what?
Right. So the most obvious and important one, for me at least, is Rey's parentage, which I thought was the single best. It's not the single, but one of the best things about Last Jedi.
Yeah, it's also the central tenet of Rise of Skywalker.
And it's stupid and shit. Yeah, Rey being a secret Palpatine is not sort of it's not foreshadowed anywhere in the first two films.
It's also crucially not what it's about.
It just comes out of nowhere.
It's about choice. The fact that she doesn't want to be a Palpatine.
No, but
so where did you see it going then in Last Jedi? Where did you see it going?
I don't know, but I didn't want Sheev Palpatine back as a clone, and Snoke was just a failed clone of Palpatine, and it's all the same people doing the same fucking things over and over again. Oh no, I made a mobile bunch of Death Stars. No, do something better.
But the mobile Death Stars is genuinely.
They weren't a million Star Destroyers that
he could make with
miniaturized Death Stars.
Yeah,
just fuck off.
No,
don't be so shit.
That is
sorry.
terrible.
It makes me really angry. Rise of Skywalker makes me so angry because Last Jedi set up. They could have done anything. Because it didn't need to be about the Skywalkers anymore. Because there were none left.
Yeah. Shut up and let me talk now. I'm going to steal your line, damn it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree with you. The Star Destroyer fleet that can kill planets, ludicrous. The fact that it relies entirely on one single relay on one ship, ludicrous. Completely agree with you. The Skywalker Palpatine parentage line is entirely because of Last Jedi's arguably fucked script. Rian Johnson, right, did something. He tried something interesting, and this is the argument that I've heard a lot of people say: is that Last Jedi has a
rather an interesting failure than a boring success.
Well, quite, but it was a boring failure. Because my goodness, is that film boring when you rewatch it? When you rewatch it critically. But the problem is he fucking kills Snoke, right? And he leaves no alternative storyline for a sequel to that film, other than who are Rey's parents. But no, he goes one step further and he fucks that up by having Kylo Ren go, "Your parents are no one."
The whole film should have been about trying to save Ben Solo. That was the point. That
the
was
film
the
is
story.
about saving Ben Solo.
No,
The
it's not.
problem,
It's
no,
about,
but it is.
it's
But,
about saying-
but they
it's
had
about
to
playing
ham-fist it by including bloody Palpatine because Ryan Johnson killed off the bad guy.
No, why couldn't Kylo Ren have been the big bad? And
Because then you have Jedi as the final film, and we don't like that either, do we?
And it doesn't end with a sort of flashy lightsaber duel, which granted would have pissed off a load of neckbeards on the internet, but so fucking what?
No,
It's not my Star Wars. Piss off.
That scene where all the Jedi talk to Rey is fantastic, but also OTT. But I stand by it. The only reason that the director ended up in that spot was because Ryan Johnson killed off the bad guy.
No,
They didn't know how else to fix Ben Solo.
No, the only reason that the director
and why they probably made her a Palpatine.
No, the only reason that the director ended up in that spot was because they couldn't come up with anything better to do than go, shit, who have we got in the archive of villain who could maybe not be dead? Oh, no one. All right, we'll just bring Palpatine back.
Of course he's not dead. He fell down a shaft. Everyone falls down a shaft and survives. Maul did it. Luke did it.
I mean, the fact that they brought Maul back sort of meant that, oh well, Palpatine must be coming back. But no, it's the director and the writer's job to be more creative than that. I'm not a professional writer. That's why I can't come up with something better. But I can tell you that whatever, if you give me 10 minutes and a pen and a blank piece of paper, I'll write something better than the heaping pile of turd that was Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, but it's only because of Ryan Johnson's Last Jedi, for fuck's sake.
It was absolutely not.
Picture the scene. J.J. Abrams sits down and someone says to him, George Lucas says to him,
George, just shut up. Film he wanted.
Oh my god. Shut up and let me talk. J.J. Abrams sits down with George Lucas and says, I've got a great idea. We're going to make a new trilogy. The first one is going to be a rehash of New Hope because it's going to rekindle all sorts of nostalgia. People will forget about the prequels. We'll kill off Han Solo, set up a big storyline with this new villain who's part of the First Order, right? And he probably has an idea in his mind where again, because J.J. Abrams, so insofar that the first one he made was A New Hope, the last one he was going to make was going to be Jedi, with Ben Solo being the counterpoint to Rey, and Rey convincing him to be good.
Yes.
In the context of Snoke and the First Order. But then Ryan fucking Johnson, right, comes in and is like, nah, I'm having none of that. I'm going to kill off your bad guy. I'm going to write some absolutely ludicrous plotline of spaceships chasing each other at a crawling speed in space. We're going to make force ghosts corporeal for absolutely no reason other than fuck everyone else. And then we're going to kill all the bad guys. And then JJ can sort out the third film. What was he supposed to do?
Okay, I will concede, and I will concede that there were a couple of slightly strange design choices in Last Jedi.
A couple.
I've
got a list here if you want my main criticisms of it.
The space chase doesn't make a lot of sense.
It does make a lot of sense. It makes no sense.
You couldn't make it work. The detour to the casino planet is ham-fisted. It's making an important point, but it's doing so badly. But the point it makes is still important.
What's the point it makes?
That in a war there are no good sides. There are just better ideas.
Benicio del Toro's line, literally.
Sorry?
Benicio del Toro's line.
Does he actually say that?
He pretty much says that in war there are no good guys when he shows them the weapons.
Yeah, it's the guy who's making both the TIE fighter and the X-Wing.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that is an important point, I think.
Of course it is, but it's not exactly original, is it?
No, it is for Star Wars.
Well, yeah, sure, but
right.
But he makes it to what? He makes that point to Finn and Rose. With that point is still kind of, she's new. And I don't know where I stand on Rose. She flip-flops. There's times where I really like her as a character, and there's times where she makes no sense. I mean, the first time we meet her, right, she stops Finn from essentially mutineering and abandoning ship because she's duty-bound. And then the very next thing she does is abandon ship.
Yeah, because she's got a mission. She's got a reason.
Oh, fuck off! She's got a mission. What? One moment, oh, the chain of command, very important. Next moment, fuck it, let's go.
It's not about the
What?
chain of command when she.
Of course, it's
zapped
the chain of
Finn.
command.
No, it's not. It's about her sister died for the rebellion. She's not going to let someone bitch out.
What? And then she bitches out. Essentially,
She doesn't bitch out. She goes off to do her job.
Yeah, no.
That's what her sister died doing. Her sister
But they
died.
did they go and tell the command structure that this is the plan we have? What do you make of it?
No, and that's short-sighted. But but Finn and Rose are both shown to be a little bit stupid.
Yeah, I mean Finn's character. Yeah.
Okay, but what I
he
really
essentially just
like,
shouts "Ray" every other line.
he does. What I really like about Jedi specifically, the Last Jedi as opposed to Return of the Jedi. That's confusing. There's the only two films that you can't just refer to by a single word. What I really like about the Last Jedi specifically is there's a line from Luke Skywalker where he says, "What, you think I'm just going to turn up and swing a laser sword and fix everything?"
Yeah,
and I think that is like that for me is the film, and there is a lot that could be done better. But
except what happens at the end?
He doesn't swing up and he doesn't.
He does, to all intents and purposes, show up and swing a laser sword, and it fixes literally everything.
No, he doesn't. That's just not true. What he does is he gives his life to buy them time. That's very different from just swinging a laser sword and killing all the First Order, which is what everyone.
No, but that was never implied.
No, it was that we need Luke Skywalker to come. No,
it was inferred exactly, and it was inferred that he was going to do that by rocking up and killing everyone with a laser sword. What people needed him for was to just come back and be Luke Skywalker. And he could have been there in person and sacrificed himself in person and still achieved exactly the same result while swinging a laser sword and maybe killing a few people. Because, I mean, he's not just going to lay down and die if he's there, I imagine.
But that would have taken away from the overall message that people have to... He's not just a fix-it button. Luke Skywalker takes himself away from the world because he can't fix everyone's problems.
But then he fixes everyone's problems.
No, he doesn't. He gives
by sending another Jedi, quote unquote, out into the galaxy with hope.
He gives them the tools to fix their own problems.
Well, no, because he's ultimately the guy who rocks up and stalls the enemy long enough.
Yeah, but that's fine. That's the
equivalent to rocking up with a guy with a laser sword and swinging it around.
It's the equivalent to giving Michael your grace.
Oh, fuck off. It is not the equivalent, because Michael was given a choice and consequences.
Yeah, so
Luke showing up does nothing, because they're already trying to get away. And the only reason they get away is because he shows up and swings a laser sword around.
Yeah, so he enables them to make their choice. He gives them the power to walk through the gate.
No, because the choice has already been made.
Yeah, but Michael had already made his choice to walk through the gate before Uriel taps him on the shoulder. No, it is actually the same. You might not like the analogy, and it might be stretching
it is not the same. It is not the same at all. The analogy in that case would be Uriel accompanying Michael and Harry on their mission and standing outside a door, swinging his big Uriel sword around.
Phrasing.
And for Michael and Harry to do whatever they're doing, but it's not what he does. His sacrifice is immediate. Luke's is an afterthought.
Okay, if you want your analogy to be exactly the same thing, but
well,
with
of course I need
characters.
it to be exactly the same. I have rarely been as annoyed with you as I am now.
Oh wow!
But putting a pin in that. So one of my comments that I've written here is Snoke lol. But I think we covered that because they kill off the bad guy.
But I don't think we needed another Palpatine, and that's all that Snoke.
We didn't, but I don't necessarily think they gave anyone a choice. And this is a major criticism I have of Rise of Skywalker, is that Palpatine is resurrected literally just in the blurb. Out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, that's
oh, by the way, Palpatine's back. Is that okay? You guys clearly didn't know what to do with this film.
That's completely outrageous. Even if it was the first scene of the film, You get the scroll, and then you zoom down into.
It literally, I think it's based on the trailer, essentially, isn't it? Because it says like, "Oh, a transmission of the Emperor's voice has been heard." It's like, well, why don't you play it at the start of the film
I
or
think
something?
someone told me it happened in Fortnite.
Oh yeah, it was teased on Fortnite, yeah.
It was
But I
teased
think it
on
was then also
Fortnite.
teased in the trailers of the film itself.
Maybe.
Because I think the laugh is at the end of the
Oh no,
trailers.
you're right. You're right.
Looking at my comments now, I've got more for Last Jedi than I actually do for Rise of Skywalker. Although most of them are centered around the spaceship chase.
Yeah, the chase
one,
is.
and I asked you this in Discord. I asked you the question: what happens when a spaceship runs out of fuel? And you said, what did you say again?
I hadn't realised that's what that was.
I know you hadn't realised. That's why I didn't tell you what the context was. You said it would just keep going until it tried to change direction. And what happens in The Last Jedi?
Unless they're both accelerating at an equivalent rate, and that's what they're using their fuel for.
No, but in Last Jedi, they mysteriously almost capsize in space and fall back really
in
fast.
our universe. And in
give me that nonsense.
No, because there's obviously something weird going on in space. Because all the spacecraft are aerodynamic.
No, it's storytelling.
Oh, so that's storytelling.
That's storytelling, absolutely. But anyway, to get back to my bashing of The Last Jedi, which is what this episode has turned into. A massive cruiser doesn't have an autopilot? Why does the Vice Admiral need to stay on to steer the ship, exactly?
One assumes someone has to punch it.
That's so... Yeah, but you can punch it and then get off the ship.
No, you can't. We've seen hand punch it before. You punch it and you go.
And then why don't they see the transports? Well, because life form scanning is all of a sudden not a thing. The thing that we is one of the first things we ever see in the films.
They've learned to only scan for droids.
Is that right? I see. And then one that I particularly enjoyed is why is everything on fire in the Rey and Ben versus the guard fights at the end? Like the entire room is on fire for some reason.
Hasn't the spaceship just been cut in half by Holdo?
But why would that set the room on fire?
Sparks.
Oh, okay. Are you Ryan Johnson by any chance?
No, I don't want to nitpick the film. I
really do. I've got two more that I really wanted to share with you.
Okay.
One is Captain Phasma, right? What was her entire shtick in the first film? She sticks to protocol, right? She's all about the protocol.
Yes.
What does she do in The Last Jedi? She's like, oh, our usual form of execution isn't quite good enough for these guys because fuck protocol. So she decides to, I don't know, chop their heads off for some reason. And then my final one, you'll be pleased to know, is why the fuck did they drop the battering ram so far from the bloody door?
Maybe they were worried about anti-air defenses.
Oh, I'm sure they were, yeah. Well, summary of all of that ranting on my part, and I'm sorry, dear listeners, it's a shit film that I still immensely enjoyed on Saturday.
This is, I think, the angry... Oh, that's why... Oh my God, I feel like such an idiot.
That was so great, because I had literally I was watching it, and then I was like, so what happens to spaceships?
Yeah, that was... I feel very silly.
I shall tweet that screenshot of your answer just to prove that it happened.
I'll hold my hands up. It definitely happened. I just don't think it's relevant in Star Wars.
No, that's arguably a fair debate about space and Star Wars being
slightly weird. There's some sort of atmosphere because you can hear explosions and also TIE fighters,
which make the same sound in space as they do in atmosphere.
Exactly, so it must be equivalent atmosphere.
I think it's like one of those modern electric cars where they just have an exhaust sound. And because in space they essentially project an atmosphere in front of them just so you can hear the sound.
I thought you were going to say they broadcast it.
They broadcast it over radio waves. Who knows?
Okay, so I guess I'm not going to convince you that The Last Jedi is the best Star Wars film.
You are not. You are not. Well, my main gripe with you is that you've put Last Jedi first and Rise of Skywalker last, when my main thinking for Rise of Skywalker is that it's predominantly shit because of Last Jedi.
So I do agree with you, but I don't think it is for the it's shit because it doesn't do anything with Last Jedi. That's my problem with Rise of
Yeah,
Skywalker.
and
I do take what you're saying, but my issue with Rise of Skywalker is that it just ignores Last Jedi. It doesn't.
it does.
It
Yeah, it
doesn't
does ignore.
deal with the problems that Last Jedi sets for it. It just goes, I don't care about those. It doesn't deal with the fact that Snoke is gone. It just makes a new Snoke. It doesn't deal with the fact that there's no threat really. No, as far as we can tell. Well, the threat is Hux, because Hux becomes that really hacks me off. Hux goes from essentially a Nazi in space
Yeah,
to a punchline,
yeah,
and that's just really. I find that really insulting.
No, Hux was definitely a victim.
Yeah, but
I
think.
But a lot of characters were. Sorry, you go ahead.
True. I think that's true. I think everyone was to a greater or lesser extent. I don't think that. I'll be honest. I've only watched Rise of Skywalker in cinemas. I can't bring myself to watch it again. But
it's actually not that bad. I think you're remembering it really badly.
I came out of the cinema thinking, that was a slightly flat ending.
Yeah.
And then I think I just got angrier about it. I seem to remember not being particularly happy with like Ben Solo's arc or Rey's arc. Like neither of them seem to struggle for anything.
But this is the thing, if you think about the main characters in that trilogy, supposedly, right? You have Rey.
Rey, Finn, Ben.
Yeah, Rey, Finn, Poe, Ben.
I guess Poe, yeah.
BB-8, but I don't think that he was ever meant to have much of a character development arc, I guess. So Rey, the whole parentage thing which they set up from the first film isn't really. It's resolved insofar that she just chooses to be a Skywalker, which, okay, a bit naff, but fine. I guess there's some poetry there. Ben, the obvious, turns to the sort of Sith
the obvious
ways.
Vader.
Yeah, and redeems himself. Finn and Poe, no idea what their arcs are. And for me, what got really confusing at the end was all the love stories. Like, for heaven's sake, you got Rey and Finn from the get-go, which I get.
Yeah.
And that was sort of it. And then Rey and Ben, which, okay, I can see that. It's sort of the dream that, I don't know.
There's also something slightly weird going on with the Snoke mind melding that I'm not particularly happy about. With that then becoming a romance.
Ben Swallow. But then, and this really gets amplified, because Rose shows up, becomes a love interest for Finn.
Yeah.
Even though it's non-reciprocal. And then in Rise of Skywalker, all of a sudden we almost seem to have a potential Poe and Finn situation.
I wanted that so badly.
I know, that was so perfect. But then there was also Finn and Rose, and then for a while it seemed like there was a Poe and Rey. And then there was Poe and his ex-girlfriend that just appears out of nowhere.
I thought that Poe and Rey was coming. I thought that was like being set up in the early parts of Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, same.
Because
and at the end, none of it happens for anyone.
Ben and Rey.
Yeah, Ben and Rey, but then Ben dies.
And at
the end, Finn wants to tell Rey something in the entire film, doesn't end up saying anything. Yeah, I guess their hug at the end is maybe telling, and they'll just have a sort of polyamorous relationship. I mean, I hope they do. I hope they're happy. It's just it was just an unsatisfying ending because there wasn't really one.
Just anyone who wants some.
Anyone who wants some. That's one way of putting it.
I think that's a bombshell to end on.
That is a bombshell to end on. I feel like I've talked a lot on this one.
No, it's fine. I talked for a fair bit, and then you just got really angry.
You did make me very angry. You could put this list in any which order, and I'd be willing to forgive it, just because the series is that good. Ultimately, it's shit, but it's great.
I think that's the takeaway. And yes, also, it bears noting that all Star Wars films are bad.
Wasn't this our original title for this episode? There are no good Star Wars films.
No, that one's coming. There's a hot take coming.
Oh, there's a hot take coming for that one. Okay.
There are no good Star
Amazing.
Wars films.
That one's just going to be Let's Bash The Last Jedi Part 2. It's fine. I'll let you talk next time round. But until then, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Expertise is Overrated. No doubt we've said some things that were either objectively wrong or downright offensive. Feel free to let us know, rate the podcast, and leave us a comment, or drop us an email at expertiseisoverrated@gmail.com, tweet us at zeroexpertise, or check out our website, expertiseisoverrated.podbean.com.
If you're lucky, we might just argue with you in one of our upcoming episodes, and if you're really lucky, we might call you an idiot. But it seems we're going to spend most of our time calling each other idiots for now. In our next episode, we discuss why wizards in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series hide from Muggle view. Join us then for more nonsense.